I left my coffee over there. I'm kind of bummed about that because I was going to have another sip of coffee before we started, which I know is a bad thing to do. Not a bad thing to do, but it works against, uh, you know, having a clear voice and not being all poppy, poppy, poppy all the way through. How's everybody doing today? John McKee with the roll call. Hank, Matthew, Eugene, Brian, Andrew, Tim, Bill, Chuck, John. That would be John. Donna, Roger, Webb. I don't know who that is. Okay, Paul. There we go. Webb is here. Well, yeah, Webb, because you're in the roll call. Aren't you in the roll call? Yeah, you're in the roll call. Okay, let's do a thing. Am I recording? Yeah, I'm recording. Okay. Let's do a thing. Putting out the call to you. It is Thursday, the 14th of January, 2021, and this is macOS Ken Live. Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Ray. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm thanking you more than just for joining us this afternoon, but thank you very much for joining us for this thing called macOS Ken Live. Coming at you Monday through Friday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, other times, other places. What we do is we get together, generally speaking, and we talk about Apple news and news related to Apple news and stuff like that. Second half of the show, or second part of the thing, it doesn't even feel like a show today. Second part of the thing, we're going to do some listener feedback, talking about what I talked about yesterday about REJI. I actually watched, that second half of the show. First half of the show, I'm seriously going to ask for your help and input. This is going to be kind of, wandering and rambling, and, hopefully that's cool. So I actually watched that thing that CBS News did yesterday. And the whole reason I watched it was to find out if we can actually call that REJI. What does it stand for again? Racial Equity. Racial Equity and Justice Initiative, REJI, REJI, I think. And that's why I watched I was seriously not going to watch the morning news thing. That's how much I don't like morning news, because all they do is like get sound bites. And that's 7 minutes of your life you'll never get back. So anyway, second half of the show, or whatever we're doing, I'm gonna do some feedback about the REJI thing. The first half, though, if I'm being completely honest, I'm having a little trouble today, and that's why I said I'm putting out the call to you, because even things that look good, I am. What's the best way to put it? Every silver lining has a cloud, I guess would be a funny way to say it. Cowan & Company is out with their top pick for the growing PC market. And I want to stop me right there. There have been a lot of people who have said, going into 2021, that their concern for Apple over the next 6 months to a year is the tough comparison for 2020, because first quarter we can take off the table, because first quarter was filled with uncertainty because of the pandemic. Or maybe that was the second quarter, March quarter maybe. I don't know. This is the reason that Apple a year ago stopped giving guidance, right? Because they didn't know how things were going to go going forward, or close to a year ago anyway. Certainly there was a chance we were going to hit a tremendous amount of economic upheaval, and a lot of people did. I am fortunate enough to say I have not. Things are leaner this year than they were last year. Things are tighter than they were. And that is driven partly by COVID, but I'm still sitting where I was sitting a year ago, looking at the same stuff I was looking at a year ago. So I'm doing okay. We didn't know how things were going to go. And what's weird is people are concerned about, last year was so good for Apple. This year is going to be a tough comparison. Except Cowan & Company is coming out and saying, computer sales are going to grow again this year. not even just talking about the Mac. Cowan thinks that Apple is the best place that you could invest if you want to invest in the whole PC space because people are buying Macs in ways that they have not for a very long time, if ever. While growth last year was up 8.3% year over year for the entire PC market, Cowan thinks that growth's going to be up another 2 point something this year, 2.5% this year, which means we're not going back to work. People aren't going back to the office, and that's fine. I mean, it's fine because we should have theoretically found other ways around this week. For some reason, that's just hitting in ways that I can't personally account for me, because there's nothing different last week than the week before that or the week before that, except we had Christmas and New Year, maybe. I think the other thing, honestly, and this is going to sound ridiculous, I think the other thing, honestly, is that Disneyland, I don't know if you heard about this, Disneyland is killing their annual pass program in Southern California. So for Disneyland, Disney World still has annual passes, which I don't understand. I don't understand how they've been open as long as they have. I mean, Florida must be such a hot spot at this point that they're like, yeah, could be Disney World, could be Miami. We don't even know what it is, honestly, that's causing all the COVID in Florida. So open everything up, because why not? So Disneyland is scrapping its annual pass program. There are a couple of different ways to look at this. I was talking to somebody earlier who said that they see it as Disney understanding that people who have paid for a Disney pass might need their money back, or might want their money back. It might be an acknowledgement of the uncertainty going forward. And that, again, is kind of a bummer. So I said earlier that I'm putting out the call to you because I want to know what your thoughts are. Because this week, honestly, and part of it has to do with the attempted coup last week as well. When this whole thing started, when we all went inside, I was asking in a few minutes, I was asking of people, so when we come out of this in 3 months, because that's what I thought, when we come out of this in 3 months, how do we want to come out of this? We've got this 3-month reset, was what I was thinking. How do we want to come back out? What do we want to see change? What do we want to make better? What do we want to do to make sure that we're taken care of? And what we seem to have instead are people who have gone inside and stayed inside because that was a way to stay safe, and people who are not interested in changing at all, to the point that they'll go out and kill themselves and each other. And I know that I'm someplace right now that's not overly productive. I mean, I'm still producing shows. I'm still doing everything I'm supposed to do. But as far as my thinking on the whole thing, I know that I'm veering dark. So the call I'm putting out to you is asking what your thoughts are, where you are on it, and how you stay up through it. And feel free to say that you're not, you can, you don't. That's fine too. I'm not putting it on you to make me feel better. I'm saying if you're seeing something that I'm not seeing, please let me know what that is. Because right now, I'm having trouble being there. But the person that I was talking to earlier said that they feel like what Disney is doing is actually helping out their customers. I feel like what they're doing is selling out their customers. And that may sound, terrible, but I would think you would give people something. I mean, the one thing that they're giving, according to the article that I read in the LA Times, is you get 30% off merchandise through February if you go to downtown Disney. So let me get this straight. For the money I paid, I get a discount on your stuff if I go put myself in a place where I might catch COVID-19. I just want to make sure I'm clear. That doesn't feel like it's doing much for the customers. And there's also something kind of depressing about the fact that this thing that was built on, hey, everybody, come on, is now having to acknowledge, on second thought, take your money back, keep your little plastic card as a souvenir. I've got mine someplace. Keep your little plastic card as a souvenir. But we don't know how this is going to go, and we're not even guiding towards a way. And we shouldn't look to corporations to guide us towards a way, but As of right now, there's nobody else to look to. Maybe next Wednesday. Whole thing seems fraught with peril and kind of a bummer, to the point that I thought about not even doing this today. But it occurred to me, maybe you could help. So I don't know what I'm asking for exactly, but I am asking for your feedback, your input, those kinds of things. A couple of ways to do it. You can leave a comment on this video, or you can email me. That would be great, actually. Email me, info@macosken.com. My goodness, there's so many people here today, and I'm just, yeah, and I'm not. Sorry about that. I'll be here tomorrow, though, I think. Let me see really quickly. There will be other shows, too. Look, it's not like there's not Apple news. There's a ton of Apple news out there right now. Tomorrow's show is full of like those PC numbers, but it won't be quite as much of a bummer. TSMC recorded just record quarter, or offered a record quarter, to the point that there's a report that they're going to build a plant. I believe it's in Arizona. I haven't actually looked into that article yet, so I'm not sure where it's sourced, but I've seen it turn up a couple of places. Apple is making a movie about Napoleon. Well, Apple's not. What's his name? Ridley Scott is making a movie about Napoleon, starring Joaquin Phoenix. He of Joker and Gladiator, and what was the one with Nicole Kidman? Anyway, he's been in a bunch of movies. Whatever. Yeah, they're also making a documentary about Oprah, which is good, because hers is a little told story. Crumbtacular. Anyway, yeah, so we got macOS Ken tomorrow. We've got in a few minutes tomorrow. And we do have a bit of feedback that we're going to do right now before I take off. People in the chat room, by the way, are chatting away, and I appreciate it. And I'll stop in and see what you have to say in a minute. Let me do some feedback really quickly, though. I got a email from Jeremy about yesterday's show when we talked about the Racial Equity and Justice Initiative investments that Apple is making, building their app developer center in Detroit, building the Propel Center, is it called, in Atlanta. Jeremy wrote in to say, listening to the podcast version of the live show last night, it struck me that the comments about all boats being lifted by the tide and different people having different life experiences almost sounds contradictory. If one benefit of having different views of the world is getting a greater variety of things, does giving everyone the same experience or opportunity get rid of that diversity? Obviously, there's more to life than school, but that does account for a lot. It's an interesting question. I actually found myself thinking about that quite a bit when the email came in. And my answer, I think, is no. If everybody had the exact same experience, then yes, you would end up with, in Star Trek terms or in real life terms, you would end up with a monoculture. You would end up with, one group of people always thinking the same thing, always doing the exact same way. What this leaves out, though, is the variations in all the other stuff that we have. Did you grow up in a big family of 10 kids, or did you grow up as an only child? Were both of your parents there, or did one of them take off at some point? Were you an orphan? Did you live in a cold climate or a warm climate? Did you live in a rural area, or did you live in a more urban area? Or did you live in an inner city area, which is different than being more urban? I mean, were you urban? Were you fringe city? Were you rural? All of those things account. The other thing is, so automatically there's going to be a difference in your experience from everybody else's. But then the other thing is, just giving everybody the opportunity doesn't mean everybody is going to take the opportunity. I talked yesterday about the different levels of socioeconomic strata, I suppose. I know people who are much, much, much better off than me, who have not tried to do half of what I have tried to do. I know people who are worse off than me, who do so much more than I'll ever do. I mean, to give everybody the same opportunity does not give everybody the same experience, the same interest, and the same drive. We regularly around the house have conversations about kids today. And it feels like an old person thing to do, but, I know the kinds of things that I was doing, that I was making, that I was interested in when I was a kid, and I hate to be this old person, but if I had had the tools that I have today when I was 15, I wonder how much different things would have been. But you know what? You can't account for it. What is the line from It's a Wonderful Life? Youth is wasted on the wrong people, says the old guy. But the old guy's an old guy. And here's the thing, if he had everything that they had, or if I had it, whatever. I mean, I get the point that Jeremy is making. If everything was the same, everyone would be the same. Giving everyone the same opportunities does not mean that everyone will be the same or is the same. It's just making sure that there's nothing standing in the way for somebody. And you can say, well, the strongest iron goes through the toughest fire or whatever. A lot of people won't get past that. A lot of people won't even know that those things exist for them. Somehow there are many things that I still go, well, people can't do that, but everything is done by people. I mean, there's something that's missing in my way of thinking, and I can actually see how a lot of the stuff happens. So making it possible for other people to see how these things can happen and actually get into them, I don't think leads to a monoculture. I just think it opens the door for more people to be able to do. Jeremy goes on, by the way, to say, don't read this as an indication that I'm against REJI. And he says that he has no problem with me calling it REJI. So that's one vote for REJI. On the surface, this wouldn't seem to affect me directly, except, like you said, the products that come out of it. But as you also pointed out, it affects the community. And as somebody who has spent there 45 plus years in the same county in Detroit and was actually born in the city, it will have more of an impact on him than it will on a lot of people. Besides being somewhat of a closeted socialist, it makes him like this. I won't tell anybody. Now, there's a cynical thing here, which makes me almost like Jeremy more. I also have to wonder if this is a way for Apple to get into the Detroit area because of cars. To some, this is still the Motor City. Having a presence here and teaching kids that grew up in families building cars could give them an advantage over companies that aren't in such car culture areas. That too, maybe. I mean, Jeremy would know better than I do. Detroit certainly has been not necessarily done as well economically as some other places, might be a good way to put it. Buffalo was sort of a depressed city when I was living there. It was on its way back up when I was on my way out, but it was kind of a depressed city, part of the whole Rust Belt thing, right? Motor City definitely got hit worse than a lot of other cities around. So I think there's real reason for Apple to be there. And if it happens to ingratiate itself to car people, well, that's fine too. Anyway, Jeremy says the show was thought-provoking. Jeremy, your email was thought-provoking, and thank you very much for sending it in. Anybody else who wants to email, info@macoscan.com is the way to do that. info@macoscan.com. Got all the shows tomorrow. Like I say, if you're in the chat room, stay in the chat room, please. If you're not in the chat room, come on by sometime. 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. Other times, other places, Monday through Friday. YouTube.com/KenRay. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Talk to you soon. Yeah, I stuck my tongue out twice. There you go. I want to get my coffee, but it's going to kill the microphone, so I'm not going to get the coffee. Maybe I'll just pantomime drinking coffee. It's not as good. All right. So listen, I know I don't owe anybody an apology, but I want to apologize anyway. And don't say don't apologize, please. And now we can forget about that. And let me go see what anybody said over here. I was seriously just looking for my glasses. There's the roll call. Okay, there's the start of the show. John McKee, start of the show. Man, you were stepping up. I could do a Conan dance, Tim, but then I'd have to stand up. And that again would kill the microphone because static electricity is not the microphone's friend the past few days. Bill says if the world stops having COVID this year, won't market sentiment rise anyway, and Apple along with it? I actually read an article yesterday that indicated that we may not have a clear idea of what real unemployment numbers are. I'm honestly a tiny bit concerned, and this is not to depress anybody. This is just sort of like thinking, like just. I don't think we have any idea. We have not had an administration that has been forthright with data. They haven't been honest with data. And I think the next people who come in, while I think they have some idea of how troubled things are, I don't think we have any idea how troubled things actually are. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe, except we find out that more people are unemployed than we realize, that could be bad. The other thing, though, Bill, specifically, is this was about Mac sales. If suddenly the world didn't have COVID and suddenly everybody was going back to work, we wouldn't be talking as much about Mac sales. And what they're talking about is Mac sales specifically, which means staying home. The other thing I forgot to mention, Dell is actually considered by, who did I say that was? I've already forgotten. Dell is actually considered by them a bad play at this point because consumers aren't buying Dells. Businesses buy Dells. And businesses aren't buying a lot of computers to replace the computers at the office because nobody's using the computers at the office. So there's kind of an answer to your question, I think. Yeah, Bill says a new Disneyland membership program will be unveiled at a later date. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, okay, so John and Bill are talking about that. The way it is now, at least the piece I read in the LA Times, John, the way it is now, the pass as we know it is going away. Which, what does that mean? I don't know. Oh, Deborah's here. Deborah missed the roll call, but I'm shouting out Deborah anyway. Not shouting her out, just shouting her out. You know what I mean? Oh, David. Well, I think you're right not to buy a pass anytime soon. I will say I'm jealous because, man, if I could live close enough to Disney, well, I guess I could because we can all, I'm not a fan of Florida, but I am a fan of Disney World, and I like the ocean, and I like space launches. You'd think I'd be a fan of Florida. I like space launches in theory. I haven't seen a real one in person anyway. Matthew says the hardest part is not remembering what day of the week it is. However, he got his medical clearance to exercise and such, so maybe you'll try the Fitness Plus thing. Interesting. Yeah, I've sort of fallen in the past week or two off the meditation thing, which was actually better. So maybe I should do that. Maybe I should try the things that work before I, go online and complain about things not working. Ugh. I had a weird thing this week, Matthew. It's been Friday every day. I mean, and I don't mean that in a good way. I mean, I'm like, oh, it's Friday. And it's like, oh, no, it's not. It's still Tuesday. Yeah, losing track of the days is not usually a thing for me. This week it has been. Bill says he's counting on a post-COVID bounce the way we had a post-World War II bounce. I like that idea. I'm trying to figure out how we get the half of the country that wants to pretend that there is no COVID to understand that there is COVID. You see, the problem is if we had done what we talked about 3 months ago, right, 3 months ago, I'm sorry, when this whole thing started, if we had done what we talked about actually going inside, actually staying inside, making it possible for people to stay inside, really treat the whole thing as serious, we might have been able to come out of it more quickly. I mean, now I'm worried that the amount of work that has to be done, like how do you bounce from that? Paul says, for me to be genuinely productive, inspired, creative, I have to mix it up with other people. COVID estrangement deadens my brain if I'm not getting inner human stimulation. I find that very lightly structured social Zooms, not watch parties or gaming, but conversations where people listen and share, gives me what I need. That's interesting. And honestly, that's probably why I get so much out of the time that we all spend here after I'm done recording, because it's more than, I mean, I love the people in the house. I do, but there are three of them and me. And only one's an adult. Not and I'm not saying whether I'm counting me in that. I would say 50% of the time I'm a grown up. I like that idea. Bill says he's got a travel list a mile long and he's going everywhere when this is over. I like that. I like to go back to the Grand Canyon. This is so weird because that's the last place I went, but we were thinking about making the Grand Canyon annual. And as much as it bothers me that I can't go out to, like, a bar and hang out with people or go to a movie, I would also like to go into the Grand Canyon and where you will see no one. So make that make sense. Thank you, Chuck. I'm not going to read that. I'll read it. Well, whatever. Glad you decided to do it. Part of the way you get through it is to keep doing what you do for yourself and for others. It's the giving in that can lead down the dark hole. Thank you, Chuck. To die for. Thank you, Hank. Joaquin Phoenix was in To Die For with Nicole Kidman, Matt Dillon, directed by Gus Van Sant. I can't remember who else was in it. Oh, Ileana Douglas. Love that movie. John, this is Hugs. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I miss Star Trek Las Vegas. That was the thing that we went to every year. The Star Trek people. All right, this thing's messed up. Sorry, my Apple Watch just gave me my stand goal. You people saw me. I didn't stand up. John says, when Ken is an android, I prefer the term synthetic human because, android, they're buggy. Will a virtual hug replace the physical contact? Direct electrical stimulation. Yeah, well, because he's talking about the gamer tech that somebody mentioned a minute ago. I didn't realize it was going to come back as a topic, though. That's funny. Webb's talking about his grandkids. He says, and I think this is a funny idea. I love it. If I had known how much fun grandkids were, I'd have had them first. Remind me, Tim, you're where? You're saying that you've got it pretty much nailed down there. Are you in Australia? I can't remember. Oh my goodness, I forgot about the REJI bar. That's right. Sorry, Matthews. Yeah. Yeah. Remember the one? Remember the $100,000 bar? Could never get one. They were too expensive. It's not true. Sorry. Now you guys are talking about candy. Now they're talking about doing the roll call. You guys, you're fun. Well, okay, you're still talking about the roll call. So there you go. See a rocket launch when you can, says John. Very exciting. Yeah, one day I was on the phone with the guys from Mission Log. I was on the phone with John Champion and Rod Roddenberry, or maybe I wasn't on the phone with them. Maybe it was just I can't remember. But SpaceX did some kind of test, and the problem is Rod wasn't hip to the fact that it was going to be happening. So he had a literal freak out and called John and told him to run outside and look. We must have been on some voice message, something or other, because he was seriously freaking out because he didn't know that the launch was coming. I would like to get to see a launch. So, hello, Jesse. Sorry, I didn't see Jesse earlier, so I'm saying hello. Wow. Deborah saw the Sally Ride launch from the beach at the Grand Floridian. Nice. The Grand Canyon is awe-inspiring. The first time I went to the Grand Canyon, I've been twice. One time I was there for 3 hours because it was when I was driving across the country, and then the other time I was there for a couple of days. Didn't stay in because didn't really plan that well, but stayed close. But the first time I went to the Grand Canyon, it was amazing because you're standing there on the ridge, and I looked down, and I realized I was looking down, off in the distance, at a cloud, which was down in the canyon. That's nuts. Oh, thank you. I'm not going to read that Media Cafe online, but thank you very much. I appreciate your saying so. Who is Donna calling a liar? That's pretty, I don't know what that was about. Oh, well. Oh, no, it's not a standing desk. It's very much a sitting desk. Yeah, it is a standing desk, actually, but it never... There we go. Oh, really? John McKee says he once fell through a rainbow while skydiving. That's crazy. Oh, Apple Watch is a liar. Okay, sorry, Donna, I missed that. Yeah, my Apple Watch was lying. It's okay though. If it wanted to add 100 calories or to my activity while I'm sitting here, that would be fine too. Oh, okay. Matthew says if you put your left hand on your hip, even if you're standing, and keep it there for a minute, the watch thinks you're standing with your hand on your hip. Well, I'm sitting there like that right now. That makes perfect sense. Thank you, Matthew. A layer of ice projected a full circle rainbow. That's so cool. Wow. All right. You guys are fun. Right. We should do a thing. I know they do the what's the thing that they do? Can't think of it. The thing that Barry Folk does, the thing they do in Chicago. Barry doesn't do it. He does it with some other people. Macstock. We should do like a Macstock, except do it at the Grand Canyon. And we'll say we're going to talk about Mac stuff, but then we'll just, talk about the Grand Canyon. Yes, John says let's do this again tomorrow. By Jove, I think that's a fine idea. Any emails you have, I'd appreciate it. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me. It actually has boosted my spirits. I really appreciate it. Yeah, shows and more shows, and we'll do this tomorrow. Take care.